My name is Olivia Sterling. I'm 28 years old, and 13 years ago, on a stormy October night, my father looked me straight in the eye and said, "Get out. I don't need a sick daughter like you." I was 15 years old, soaking wet, with nowhere to go. That was the night I was erased from my family, but it was also the night that unknowingly created the woman who would one day stand on a graduation stage they never expected to see again. Growing up, I learned very early how our house worked. My younger sister Madison's tears were always louder than my achievements. When I was 11, I won first place at a regional science fair, beating 40 other students with a project I worked on for months. I ran home clutching my blue ribbon, heart pounding with pride. My mom smiled and hugged me and told me she was proud. Then Madison walked in from dance practice, face red, tears streaming because she messed up a pirouette. My mom's arms left me instantly. She knelt down, pulled Madison close, and soothed her. I stood there holding my ribbon while nobody asked to see it. That moment taught me a lesson I would spend years learning how to unlearn. That became the pattern. Madison needed more attention. Madison was sensitive. Madison required careful handling. I learned to celebrate quietly, to need less, to take up less space. By the time I was 14, I stopped showing them my report cards. Straight A's didn't compete with Madison's drama. When I earned a full scholarship to a prestigious summer science camp, my dad barely looked up from his phone. "That's nice," he said. Madison cried about me leaving. By the next morning, the opportunity was gone. They called it family unity, being understanding, being the bigger person. What they really taught me was how to disappear. The lies started small. Madison borrowed my clothes and denied it. Money went missing from my mom's wallet, and somehow I was blamed. My parents never questioned her. When I said she was lying, my dad told me to stop causing problems. Then the lies escalated. Broken items became my fault. Her failed tests became my responsibility. Rumors at school somehow traced back to me. I stopped defending myself because it didn't matter. They believed her tears every time. By 15, I felt like a ghost in my own house, present but invisible unless someone needed a scapegoat. I told myself I just needed to survive until college. I didn't realize the breaking point would arrive in a storm. There was a boy named Jake in my AP chemistry class. He struggled with stoichiometry, and I helped him after school. That was it. Homework help. Madison had a massive crush on him. When she saw him thanking me at my locker one afternoon, something changed in her eyes. That night, she barely spoke at dinner. Silence from Madison was more dangerous than tears. A week later, during a severe storm, I heard her crying downstairs. My dad called me down. Madison accused me of spreading rumors, flirting with Jake, and then claimed I pushed her down the stairs. She showed my parents fake screenshots from my account and a bruise on her arm. I denied everything. I begged them to listen. My dad didn't hesitate. He called me sick, told me something was wrong with me. Then he pointed to the door and told me to get out. It was pouring rain, wind screaming, thunder shaking the house. I begged my mom with my eyes to stop him. She turned away and held Madison instead. I grabbed my jacket and stepped into the storm. I waited on the porch, hoping he'd come after me. The door never opened. I walked with no destination, phone dying, shoes filling with water. I tried calling friends. No one answered. The library was closed. The bus station was miles away. I didn't see the car until it was too late. Headlights, a horn, screeching brakes. I was thrown onto the pavement. My head hit the road. Everything went white. When I came to, a woman was kneeling beside me in the rain, hands shaking but voice steady. She asked my name, asked for my parents' number. I told her they didn't want me anymore. She stared at me like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. That woman was Dr. Eleanor Smith, one of the most respected professors in the state. She stayed with me until the ambulance came. She stayed at the hospital. When my parents arrived, she confronted them. When they tried to minimize what they'd done, she called a social worker. She refused to leave my side. When I woke up days later, my parents were gone. Eleanor was still there. A social worker told me I didn't have to go back home. Eleanor offered to take me in temporarily. She told me someone once did the same for her and it changed her life. I believed her. I chose different. Living with Eleanor felt like breathing for the first time. No yelling, no walking on eggshells, just books, calm, and belief. I transferred schools, started fresh. I worked harder than I ever had before, not to impress anyone, but to prove to myself that I wasn't broken. Eleanor taught me about scholarships, systems, and how education could change lives. She told me I was going to do something important one day. For the first time, I believed it. I went to college on a full scholarship, majored in education policy, and turned my pain into purpose. At 25, I created the Second Chances Scholarship for students from abusive or neglectful homes. By 27, we had helped dozens of students stay in school. Then I was invited to be the keynote speaker at a graduation ceremony. Riverside State University, my sister's school. I had full control over the speech. I accepted. On graduation day, I stepped onto the stage and watched Madison's face collapse when she recognized me. I told the truth, calmly, professionally. I told the story of a 15-year-old girl abandoned in a storm, and the woman who refused to give up on her. I didn't name names, I didn't need to. The silence in the auditorium said everything. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. My parents sat frozen. Madison couldn't look up. After the ceremony, my parents tried to apologize. Madison tried to explain. I listened calmly and set boundaries they didn't expect. I told them forgiveness wasn't the same as reconciliation. I told them I was done. I walked away with Eleanor, my real family. In the weeks that followed, my speech went viral. Applications to the scholarship tripled. More universities partnered with us. Madison's lies finally collapsed under the weight of the truth. I didn't celebrate her downfall. I felt relief. Today, the scholarship spans multiple universities. We've helped dozens of students survive, stay enrolled, and believe in themselves. Eleanor is still my family. I have peace. I don't regret the storm. I don't regret the pain, because it led me here. I was never sick. I was never broken. I was just in the wrong place with the wrong people. And if you're listening to this feeling invisible, unwanted, or discarded, hear me clearly. You are not the problem. Sometimes all it takes is one second chance to change everything. The situation finally collapsed during a severe storm. I had been helping a classmate with schoolwork, something I often did, but my sister misunderstood and became angry. That night, she accused me of behavior that never happened and supported her story with lies and fabricated evidence. I denied it calmly and honestly, but my father did not hesitate. He decided I was the problem. Without asking questions or listening further, he told me to leave the house immediately. My mother did not stop him. She held my sister while I stood alone. I stepped outside into heavy rain, hoping someone would call me back inside. No one did. I walked without direction, frightened and exhausted. I tried to find help, but it was late and I had nowhere to go. Eventually, I was struck by a car. I remember the sound of rain, the headlights, and then nothing. When I woke up, I learned that a woman had stayed with me through the entire emergency. Her name was Dr. Eleanor Smith, a respected university professor who happened to be driving by when the accident occurred. Eleanor did what my family would not. She listened. She stayed. She asked questions and took my situation seriously. When my parents arrived and attempted to minimize what had happened, she spoke firmly on my behalf and contacted social services. She refused to allow me to be sent back into an unsafe environment. Eventually, she offered to take me into her home temporarily. That decision changed my life. Living with Eleanor was peaceful in a way I had never experienced. There was structure, kindness, and respect. I was encouraged to speak, to learn, and to believe in my own worth. I focused on school and slowly rebuilt my confidence. Eleanor helped me understand opportunities I had never known existed, including scholarships and academic support programs. For the first time, an adult told me clearly that I mattered and that my future was important. Went on to attend university on a full scholarship and later focus my studies on education and social policy. I wanted to help young people who came from unstable or neglectful homes, just as I had. By my mid-20s, I founded a small scholarship program for students who had been forced to grow up too quickly. What began as a modest effort grew faster than I expected. Several years later, I was invited to speak at a university graduation ceremony. It was the same university my sister attended. I accepted, knowing the moment would be difficult, but necessary. During my speech, I shared my story calmly and respectfully. I did not accuse anyone or seek sympathy. I simply told the truth about what happens when a child is abandoned and what can happen when someone chooses to help instead. The audience listened in silence, and when I finished, they stood and applauded. After the ceremony, my parents attempted to speak with me. They offered apologies and explanations. I listened, but I also set boundaries. I explained that forgiveness does not always mean returning to the same relationship. I chose peace over reopening old wounds. I left with Eleanor, who had become my family in every way that mattered. Today, the scholarship program supports students across multiple universities. Many of them are thriving in ways they once believed were impossible. Eleanor remains a constant presence in my life, and I am grateful for the path that led me here, even though it was painful. I do not see myself as a victim anymore. I see myself as someone who survived, learned, and chose to build something meaningful. If you are listening to this and recognize parts of your own story, I want you to know this. Being mistreated does not define your worth. Being overlooked does not mean you are insignificant. Sometimes life changes not because everything goes right, but because one person chooses to care when it matters most, and sometimes that is enough to change everything.